Okay, so hey guys, and welcome back to another weekly fighting roundup. Today's video got boxing and MMA news. If you are new around here though and you haven't yet subscribed, please do so. Live it if you do indeed live it, and let's get straight into it. So, going to start off with the boxing news as per usual. So, Hearn wants Ngannou versus Joshua in Africa. He's branded it as the Rumble in the Jungle 2. Do I think it might happen? I suppose with Ngannou, it doesn't seem like it's too difficult to make a deal with him, so I suppose you never know. Hardman will fight Coleman November 22nd. Marku may fight Taylor. Catterall is set to fight February 10th, maybe being Taylor, so two pretty big fights there for Taylor on the table for him. Jarvis versus B-Dave, Poker versus Vampiro, Silva versus Rose, Arms versus Minicon 2, Pizza versus Yudi Gang 2, Brooks versus Rhino, and Dapper Laughs versus Simon will fight November 17th. Fury versus Usyk is being planned for February. That's the latest updates on that. Do I think that that's ever going to happen? I don't know at this point, but that's the latest updates on that. Nigamiya Sengu has joined Let's Go Management. I don't know if I've pronounced that right. Apologies if I haven't. Saunders is set to fight in January. Akhmadaliev is set to fight Gonzalez December 16th. Ramirez versus Espinoza. Zayas versus Fortia. Carrington versus Sanchez. Naiba, Tucker, Johnson and Polanco will fight December 9th. Barrett is set to fight Iron November 25th. Nelson has been awarded MBE. Congratulations to Johnny Nelson, an absolute legend of the sport. Had the pleasure to speak to him now as well, and yeah, it's an honour to have spoke to him, and he's, like I said, a real legend of sport, and he deserves that MBE. Kakase versus Garner is set to be off. Maloney will fight Sanchez January 13th. Pacquiao has called out Davis at £147. Garcia versus Roach and Charlo versus Benavidez Jr. will fight November 25th. I find that quite strange that Charlo's fighting on an undercard. This is, of course, the unbeaten Charlo fighting now on an undercard. I know he's had a while out, but either way, like he's gone from the talks of him fighting Canelo to now fighting on a lower side of the undercard against Benavidez Jr. Is this really what you wanted for your career? I don't know. Kelly will fight Knapp December 16th. Chamberlain and Turner are set to fight November 24th. Dacres, Bark, Hickford and Adams have joined Queensbury. Congratulations to Dacres for that signing, and well, Queensbury for some big signings there. Zhu is set to fight in March. Eubank Jr. is set to fight Ben January 27th. Ortiz will fight Lawson January 6th. Good to see Ortiz back, but will that fight actually end up happening? I don't know. I'd like to hope so. But it's fair enough that it's not against Stanionis. Like he's got a fight now, and yeah, he kind of needs seemingly a warm up or a bit of a fight to get him Ortiz back into it now, because he has had so long out. Zhang has called out Joshua for December. Romero has been declared WBA champion in recess. Richards has joined Wasserman, and Richards will fight November 10th. Good to see Richards back fighting. Was at his last fight. Been a little while, but he's back fighting now, and he's actually fighting this weekend as well. GBM have signed a streaming deal with TalkSport. Verdejo has been sentenced to jail. It's just something I thought I might as well mention because he is a boxer, or was a boxer. Netflix are set to broadcast live boxing. It's a new kind of person coming in. Apparently they're gonna try broadcast the next Jake Paul fight. I don't really know what's happening with that. Davis will fight Barroso December 2nd. Baumgartner has 30 days to provide any potential reasoning for her positive drug test. Otherwise, she'll get stripped of her world title. WBA have ordered Ford versus Kolmatov. Yafai, Boston and McGrail are set to fight December 16th. Good to see Boston going out and having a big fight, or going to have big fights in different countries now, and yeah, credit to him. Anui versus Neri are in negotiations for May 2024. Denet will fight on, age 22. I believe he's going to come back after an injury, which might keep him out for a little while, but then apparently he wants to carry on fighting. Pare Lemonet won by unanimous decision versus Valishvili. Rasu won by unanimous decision versus Guarassi. Vice won via unanimous decision versus Karaksa to become EBU European Welterweight Champion. Got the prediction kind of right. The Miguez fight fell through. I believe Miguez came out with an injury. I don't actually know if that was before I actually did my prediction, to be completely honest, but I wasn't aware of it. And I mean, Vice still won either way. It'd be interesting to see if they will just try and make the Miguez fight again, or if they're going to move on now. But Vice still getting a victory, and sometimes them fights against these opponents coming in late notice are fights which fighters lose because they overlook the opponents and aren't training for them and just think, oh, this guy's coming in, he's stepping in, he's not going to be prepared. It doesn't really matter. But Vice still managed to win. Hovakimian won via TK in round 1 versus Parsat. Barbario won via KO in round 4 versus Schürrle. Allen won via split decision versus Bouchamp to become EBU European Welterweight Champion. Edwards won via points versus Cook. Walmsley won via points versus Hardy. Elding won via points versus Pollard. Pogson won via points versus Darnell. Hill won via points versus Olez. Pularkas won via TK in round 3 versus Richardson. Giles won via majority decision versus Najib to become a Commonwealth Silver Super Featherweight Champion. Good to see Pogson getting a victory there. Shame about Richardson. It was really sad to see. I've spoke to him since then and he seems like all is good, but it's just one of them things that happen. It's one of them learning fights. He got hit with a shot and just what happens. Boxing's a cruel sport and it was sad to see. But either way, I'm sure he'll come back and it will just be a learning step. Ali won via unanimous decision versus Guzman. Sissoko won via unanimous decision versus Lucero to remain WBC silver welterweight champion. Correa won via KO in round 2 versus Nonchinger to become IBF World Light Flyweight Champion. Cordina won via majority decision versus Vasquez to remain IBF World Super Featherweight Champion. Speak a bit more about the card. Ali managing to avenge her defeat last time and she did it relatively convincingly. I thought early on, I feel like most people did, with the way that the first round was going, that Guzman would be able to just dominate Ali again. But Ali, she improved throughout. She planted her feet when necessary, moved when necessary, and outboxed her in the end and did well. Sissoko, it wasn't an amazing performance against Lucero, but them tough Mexicans, they're always going to be tough opponents against. And he's been out of the ring for a little while, and there's a few things, but that fight's definitely not going to push him on to then get a world title opportunity. I'd still like to see the fight versus Vice. That's just what I'd see for a big domestic fight for him. Correa, wow, that was very, very crazy. Nobody expected that. Nonching, I got the prediction wrong, but I feel like everybody got the prediction wrong. Nonching, I'm sure he's going to be back, and they probably will end up rematching it, but that was a crazy shot, and fair play to Correa. It showed how much it meant to him with what he was all saying afterwards, and yeah, it was wild, and that's why boxing can be a great sport at times. It was just so shocking. And Cordina, it wasn't his best performance by far, wasn't. Vasquez did well. He pushed the tempo all the way through and really put it on Cordina. And Cordina, I feel like he shouldn't have standed and traded as much as he did. And I said that in my prediction as well. I got my prediction right, but I feel like he definitely should have tried to box and move and keep the range. And when he did do that for certain rounds, he was having a lot of success from doing that. And if only he could have just done that a bit more. And fair play to Vasquez. He did look a bit upset and did look frustrated when the decision didn't go his way. But I did think the decision was quite fair. And it was a close fight. Another one of them fights which it's a close fight, but it's not a robbery. And I kind of disagree with anybody saying that was a robbery. But Cordina, not his best, but still managing to get the victory, and that's what shows a real champion is, if they can still get a victory even when they're not at their best. And I'm sure there are going to be huge fights now available for him, or even just before they were still available, but still going to end up happening now, hopefully. Valle won via unanimous decision versus Ortiz to remain IBF and WBO World Minimum Weight Champion. Got that prediction right. Good performance from Valle. Not an amazing performance, a solid performance. She seemed to struggle a bit with range early on, and she seemed a bit overly eager early on. I still don't really like when she stands and trades on the inside and uses her hooks because there's not really anything clean about them. Just the straight shots, it's where it's at for her. I think there was her gloves look very strange in that fight. It's just something I wanted to say. They look very big. Either way, she managed to get a victory against fair play to Ortiz. She did what she had to do. The jab was there the whole fight, like I mentioned in my prediction, and it was a heavy jab and it kept her at range and it did a job. But Valle managed to break it down, managed to make the fight a bit scrappy, and it wasn't an amazing performance either, really, but it's another win for her. And I mean, realistically, if she's just going to keep fighting opponents who are challengers, then I feel like she's never really going to progress as a fighter, and she has to fight these really tough fighters, but it just doesn't seem to be happening at the moment, which is a shame. Avalos won via majority decision versus Partida. Sheehy won via unanimous decision versus Vasquez Jr. Morales drew versus Lacey. Garcia won via unanimous decision versus Montoya. Moore won via unanimous decision versus Sims to become a North American Boxing Federation Junior Heavyweight Champion. Martin won via KO in round 1 versus Weiss. Rebular won via unanimous decision versus Rosario. Delgado won via KO in round 4 versus Ramos. Lebron won via majority decision versus Foster 3. Muratala won via TKO in round 8 versus Nunes to remain North American Boxing Federation lightweight and WBO Global Lightweight Champion. Ajagba won via TKO in round 4 versus Goodall to remain WBC Silver Heavyweight Champion. Speak about the fights that I did predictions for. LeBron, majority decision victory, got that one wrong. Fair play to him. He did well, and it was a good, close fight, that one. Muratala, great performance from him. A very dominating attacking display, and didn't really seem to get hit with much, and was hitting very clean, accurate throughout the whole fight, and it was a very dominant performance. I mean, it was a bit of an early stoppage from the ref, but either way, he would have still won convincingly anyway, and I'm sure he would have probably ended up stopping him either way. And Ajagba, fair play to him. I predicted that wrong, and Muratala one I got right. The Ajagba one, I got that wrong. I thought Goodall would make it a bit more tougher on the inside, and Ajagba would struggle with that higher tempo. But as of recent, he's not really been boxing with that higher tempo, Ajagba, but he used it there and he showed it there, and maybe it still wasn't an amazing performance, but he had a good uppercut that he was utilising, and he seemed comfortable on the inside to an extent. Obviously, not all the shots he was throwing were the most clean, and the finish, the onslaught wasn't the most accurate and clean of fights, but it doesn't have to be. It was nice to see him just being attacking, aggressive, confident, and I'm sure it's just going to do him the world of good, that win. And it's a good performance from him, and I'm sure more fighters and more big fights will be available to him now. Moving on, Grabowski drew versus Drojkowski. Gorski won via TK in round 4 versus Strakowski. Bednarek won via unanimous decision versus Blanco. Włodarczyk won via KO in round 4 versus Mosquera. Zalusk won via unanimous decision versus Garcia. Cesar Meta won via unanimous decision versus Rodriguez. Seslak won via TK in round 7 versus McCarthy to remain EBU European Cruiserweight Champion. Yoka will fight Murhi December 9th. And Chisora has called out Ngannou. But yeah, that's all the boxing news. Moving on now to the MMA news, which, to be fair, there is a bit of news this week. So, PFL have offered Diaz to rematch Paul. Ngannou versus Wilder in MMA is being discussed. That would be a great fight, to be completely honest. I would love that to be an MMA fight. If there's going to be any fight who's going to be like a boxing UFC or boxing MMA crossover, then I would love that, to be honest. That would be very interesting. Dariush will fight Zorukian December 3rd. UFC will return to China December 9th. Hooker versus Green. Macedo versus Horth. Turman versus Gooden. Bellato versus Portieria. Garcia versus Costa. Close versus Solecki. Reese versus Brundage. Tate versus Avila. Guida versus Silva. Roundtree versus Mazakhanov. Soriano versus Stolosevus, and Font versus Figueiredo will fight December 3rd. Some good fights there, to be completely honest. I'm looking forward to that Font versus Figueiredo one. Figueiredo moving up in weight now. It'll be interesting to see how he does. Moving on, Felder has re-entered the USADA drug testing pool. Diakazi won via decision versus Fernandez. Moro won via KO in round 2 versus Ruiz. Hill won via decision versus Gomez. Petrino won via KO in round 2 versus Bukauskas. Fakredinov won via drew versus Dos Santos. Brenner won via KO in round 1 versus Krichewski. Baralo won via decision versus Magomedov. Ferreira won via decision versus Mayes. Dolby won via KO in round 2 versus Bonfim. Almeida won via decision versus Lewis. Cow won. So Almeida won by decision versus Lewis. Speak about that card. There was one KO. I believe it was the Brenner one. That was a very impressive KO, to be fair. And then the main event, it was a dominant display. Almeida did what he had to do. Really, obviously, people were going to call it boring and whatever, but he took him to the ground. He utilised any kind of groundwork he could, and just overly smothered, dominated an opponent, which can be tough against a lot of fighters, and has proved that, and just cut out any kind of ability for him to really show anything in the attacking sense. And so it's a dominated performance. Fair play to him. And then Bukaw on via unanimous decision versus Sayenchai. I just wanted to mention that, to be fair. Obviously, it's not the whole card that I'm talking about there, but that's a legend fight, and I know how much of a legend Bukaw is, especially, and one of the best mixed martial artists ever, one of the best Muay Thai fighters ever, and it's just such impressive to see him still fighting at a high level, to be fair, at the age of, I believe, 41 as well. It's fair play to him, one of the best Thai fighters ever as well, and yeah, it's amazing to see him fight still every fight. It's just a real technical kind of display, and obviously it maybe not be the best anymore, but it's still very high level. And Pennington is set to fight Silva January 20th. And yeah, that is it for today's video. Hope you did enjoy. Like this if you didn't, like this, subscribe if you're new, and thanks for watching.